May our Father, Messiah, and Holy Spirit be with us. Pick back up from 1 Samuel 13. So was the number is lacking in the Hebrew text. Also, the precise context of the 2 years is uncertain. The verse is lacking in its Sefutanikis. So it just says Saul was ... years old when he became king, and he reigned over Israel 2 years. Saul picked 3,000 Israelites, of whom 2,000 were with Saul and Michmas. So and oldest others, Michmash throughout the chapter. I'm starting to look down when it has like the letter or whatever, and it has like the little thing at the bottom, like B, like Michmas, and then I read. I'm just reading the stuff that's at the bottom now because I haven't done that on any other readings, to be honest. Not every time. No, I'm trying to do it like every time. I'm trying to be up on myself about that, just so I can learn more about our Father in heaven. Saul picked 3,000 Israelites, of whom 2,000 were with Saul and Michmas, and in the hill country of Bethel, and 1,000 with Jonathan and Gibeah of Benjamin. The rest of the troops he sent back to their homes. Jonathan struck down the Philistine, perfect, in Gibeah, apparently identical with Gibeah in verse 2. And the Philistines heard about it. Saul had the ram's horns sounded throughout the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." When all Israel heard that Saul had struck down the Philistines perfect, and that Israel had became malodorous to the Philistines, incurred the wrath of the Philistines. All the people railed to Saul at Gilgal. The Philistines in turn gathered to attack Israel, 30,000, 3,000. It says Sephuticus and other versions read 3,000. 30,000, 3,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen and troops as numerous as the sands of the seashore. They marched up and encamped at Michmas, east of Beth Aven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble, for the troops were hard pressed, the people hid in caves, among thorns, among rocks, and tunnels, and in cisterns, some Hebrews crossed the Jordan to the territory of God and Gilead. Saul was still at Gilgal, and the rest of the people railed to him in alarm. He waited 7 days, the time that Shemuel had set. But when Shemuel failed to come to Gilgal and the people began to scatter, Saul said, "Bring me the burnt offering and the sacrifice of well-being." And he presented the burnt offering. He had just finished presenting the burnt offering when Shemuel arrived. And Saul went out to meet him and welcomed him. But Shemuel said, "What have you done?" Saul replied, I saw the people leaving me and scattering. You had not come at that point in time, and the Philistines had gathered at Michmas. I thought the Philistines would march down against me at Gilgal before I had entreated our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and earth. So I forced myself to present the burnt offering. Shemuel answered Saul, "You acted foolishly in not keeping the commandments that our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and earth, your Elohim, laid upon you. Otherwise, our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and earth, would have established your dynasty over Israel forever. But now your dynasty would not endure. Our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and earth, will seek out a man after his own heart, and our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and earth, will appoint him ruler over his people, because you did not abide by what our Father in heaven had commanded you." Shemuel arose and went up from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin. Saul numbered the troops who remained with him, about 600. Saul and his son Jonathan and the troops who remained with them stayed in Gibeah of Benjamin with the Philistines. While the Philistines were encamped at Michmas, the raiders came out of the Philistine camp in the 3 columns. One column headed for the Oprah road that leads to the district of Shaul. Another column headed for the Beth Haran road, and the third column headed for the border. Separated reads Gibeah, that overlooks the valley of Zeboim toward the desert. No smith was to be found in all the land of Israel, for the Philistines were afraid that the Hebrews would make swords or spears. So all the Israelites had to go down to the Philistines to have their plowshares there, mattocks, axes, and coulters, sickles sharpened. The charge for sharpening was a pin, meaning of several terms in a verse uncertain. For plowshares, mattocks, 3-pronged forks, and axes, and for setting the goads, those on the day of the battle, no sword or spear was to be found in the possession of any of the troops with Saul and Jonathan. Only Saul and Jonathan had them. Now the Philistine garrison had marched out to the pass of Michmas. Thus on the day of the battle, no sword or spear was to be found in the possession of any of the troops with Saul and Jonathan. Only Saul and Jonathan had them. Now the Philistine garrison had marched out to the pass of Michmas. One day Jonathan, son of Saul, said to the attendant who carried his arms, "Come, let us cross over to the Philistine garrison on the other side." But he did not tell his father. Now Saul was staying on the outskirts of Gibeah, under the pomegranate tree at Migron, and the troop with him and the troops with him numbered about 600. Ahiah, son of Ahitub, brother of Ahitub, brother of Ishabad, son of Phinehas, son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the priest of our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth at Shiloh, was there bearing an ephod. The troops did not know that Jonathan had gone at the crossing by which Jonathan sought to reach the Philistine garrison. There was a rocky crag on one side and another rocky crag on the other side. The one called Bozez and the other Sanaa. One crag was located on the north near Michmas, and the other on the south near Gibeah. Jonathan said to the attendant who carried his arms, "Come, let us cross over to the outposts of those uncircumcised fellows. Perhaps our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, will act on our behalf, for nothing prevents our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, from winning a victory by many or by few." His arms bearer answered him, "Do whatever you like. Do whatever is in your heart. Incline yourself. I am with you, whatever you decide." Jonathan said, "We'll cross over to those men and let them see us. If they say to us, 'Wait until we get to you,' then we'll stay where we are and not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come up to us,' then we will go up. For our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, is delivering them into our hands. That shall be our sign." They both showed themselves to the Philistine outpost, and the Philistines said, "Look, some Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they have been hiding." The men at the outpost shouted to Jonathan and his arms bearer, "Come up to us, and we'll teach you a lesson." Then Jonathan said to his arms bearer, "Follow me, for our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, will deliver them into the hands of Israel." And Jonathan clambered up on his hands and feet, his arms bearer behind him. The Philistines fell before Jonathan, and his arms bearer finished them off behind him. The initial attack that Jonathan and his arms bearer made accounted for some 20 men within a space about a half a furrow long in an acre of land. Terror broke out among all the troops, both in the camp and in the field. The outposts and the raiders were also terrified. The very earthquake and the terror from God ensued. Saul's scouts in Gibeah of Benjamin saw that the multitude was scattering in all directions. And Saul said to the troops with him, "Take account and see who has left us." They took account and found that Jonathan and his arms bearer were missing. Thereupon Saul said to Ahiah, "Bring the ark of Elohim here," for the ark of Elohim was at the time among the Israelites. But while Saul was speaking to the priest, the confusion in the Philistine camp kept increasing. And Saul said to the priest, "Withdraw your hand." Saul and the troops with him assembled and rushed into battle. They found the Philistines in very great confusion. Every man's sword turned against his fellow, and the Hebrews who had previously sided with the Philistines, who had come up with them in the army from around about, they too joined the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. When all the men of Israel who were hiding in the hill country of Ephraim heard that the Philistines were fleeing, they too pursued them in battle. Thus our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, brought victory to Israel that day. The fighting passed beyond Beth Aven. The men of Israel were distressed that day. For Saul had laid an oath upon the troops. "Cursed be the man who eats any food before night falls, and I take revenge on my enemies." So none of the troops ate anything. Everybody came to a stack of beehives where some honey had spilled on the ground. When the troops came to the beehives and found a flow of honey there, no one put his hand to his mouth, for the troops feared the oath. Jonathan, however, had not heard his father adjure the troops. So he put out the stick he had with him, dipped it into the beehive of honey, and brought his hand back to his mouth, and his eyes lit up. At this, one of the soldiers spoke up. "Your father adjourned the troops, 'Cursed be the man who eats anything this day.' And so the troops are faint." Jonathan answered, "My father has brought trouble on the people. See for yourselves how my eyes lit up when I tasted that bit of honey. If only the troops had eaten today as spoil captured from the enemy, the defeat of the Philistines would have been greater still." They struck down the Philistines that day from Michmas to Aijalon, and the troops were famished. The troops pounced on the spoil. They took the sheep and cows and calves and slaughtered them on the ground, and the troops ate with the blood. When it was reported to Saul that the troops were sinning against our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, eating with the blood, he said, "You have acted faithlessly. Roll a large stone over to me today." And Saul ordered, "Spread out among the troops and tell them that everyone must bring his ox or his sheep and slaughter it here, and then eat. You must not sin against our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, and eat with the blood." Every one of the troops brought his own ox with him that night and slaughtered it there. Thus Saul set up an altar to our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth. It was the first altar he executed to our Father in heaven. Saul said, "Let us go down after the Philistines by night and plunder among them until the light of morning, and let us not leave a single survivor among them." "Do whatever you please," they replied. But the priest said, "Let us approach Elohim here." So Saul inquired of Elohim, "Shall I go down after the Philistines?" We delivered them into the hands of Israel. But this time he did not respond to him. Then Saul came forward Then you notice he said he did not respond to him. Then Saul said, "Come forward, all chief officers of the troops, and find out how this guilt was incurred today. For as our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth, lives, who brings victory to Israel, even if it was through my son Jonathan, he shall be put to death." That one soldier answered him, and he said to all the Israelites, "You stand on one side, and my son Jonathan and I shall stand on the other." The troops said to Shaul, "Do as you please." Saul then said to our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth, the Elohim of Israel, Shotamim. Shotamim, Jonathan and Saul were indicated by a lot, and the troops were cleared. And Saul said, "Cast the lots between my son and me." And Jonathan was indicated. Saul said to Jonathan, "Tell me, what have you done?" And Jonathan told him, "I only tasted a bit of honey with the tip of the stick of my hand. I am ready to die." Saul said, Thus and more may Elohim do. You shall be put to death, Jonathan." But the troops said to Saul, "Shall Jonathan die after bringing this great victory to Israel? Never, as our Father in heaven lives, the Master of the heavens and the earth. Not a hair of his head shall fall to the ground, for he brought this day to pass with the help of Elohim." Thus the troops saved Jonathan, and he did not die. Saul broke off his pursuit of the Philistines, and the Philistines returned to their homes. After Saul had secured his kingship over Israel, he waged war on every side against all his enemies, against the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, the Philistines, and the kings of Zobah. And wherever he turned, he worsted them. He was triumphant, defeating the Amalekites and saving Israel from those who plundered it. Saul's sons were Jonathan, Ishvi, and Malchishua, and the names of his two daughters were Merab, the older, and Michael, the younger. The name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam, daughter of Ahimaaz, and the name of his army commander was Abner, son of Saul's uncle Ner. Kish, Saul's father, and Ner, Abner's father, were sons of Abiel. There was bitter war against the Philistines all the days of Saul, and whenever Saul noticed any stalwart man or warrior, he would take him into service. Shemuel said to Saul, I am the one our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and earth, sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. Therefore listen to our Father in heaven's command. Thus said our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and earth of hosts, I am exacting the penalty for what Amalek did to Israel, for the assault he made upon them on the road on their way up from Mitzrayim. Now go attack Amalek and proscribe all that belongs to him. Spare no one, but kill alike men and women, infants and sucklings, oxen and sheep, camels and asses and donkeys. Saul mustered the troops and enrolled them at Telaim, 2,000 men on foot and 10,000 men of Yehuda. Then Saul advanced as far as the city of Amalek and lay in wait in the Wadi. Saul said to the Canaanites, "Come withdraw at once from among the Amalekites, that I may not destroy you along with them, for you showed kindness to all the Israelites when they left Mitzrayim." So the Canaanites withdrew from among the Amalekites. Saul destroyed Amalek from Havilah all the way to Sheor, which is close to Mitzrayim, and he captured King Agag of Amalek alive. He proscribed all the people, putting them to the sword. But Saul and the troops spared Agag and the best of the sheep, the oxen, the second-born, the lambs, and all else that was of value. They would not prescribe them. They prescribed only what was cheap and worthless. The word of our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth. Then came to Shemuel. I regret that I made Saul king, for he has turned away from me and has not carried out my commands. Shemuel was distressed, and he entreated our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth, all night long. Early in the morning, Shemuel went to meet Saul. Shemuel was told. Saul went to Carmel, where he erected a monument for himself. Then he left and went on down to Gilgal. When Shemuel came to Saul, Saul said to him, "Blessed are you, our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth. I have fulfilled our Father in heaven's command." Then what demanded Shemuel? "Is this belating of sheep in my ears and the lowing of oxen that I hear?" Saul answered, "They were brought from the Amalekites, for the troops spared the choices of the sheep and oxen for sacrificing to our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth, Elohim, and we prescribed the rest." Shemuel said to Saul, "Stop, let me tell you what our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth, said to me last night." "Speak," he replied. And Shemuel said, "You may look small to yourself, but you are the head of the tribes of Israel. Our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth, anointed you king over Israel. And our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and earth, sent you on a mission, saying, Go and prescribe the sinful Amalekites, make war on them until you have exterminated them. Why did you disobey our Father in heaven and swoop down on the spoil in defiance of our Father in heaven's will?" Saul said to Shemuel, "But I did obey our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth. I performed the mission on which our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth, sent me. I captured King Agag of Amalek, and I prescribed Amalek. And the troops took from the spoil some sheep and oxen, the best of what had been prescribed to sacrifice to our Father in heaven, your Elohim, at Gilgal." But Shemuel said, "Does our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth, delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obedience to our Father in heaven, the Master of the heavens and the earth command?" Surely obedience is better than sacrifice, compliance than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, defiance like the iniquity of Tephraim. Because you rejected our Father in heaven's command, he has rejected you as king. Saul said to Shemuel, I did wrong to transgress our Father in heaven's command and your instructions, but I was afraid of the troops, and I yielded to them. Please forgive my offense and come back with me, and I will bow low to our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth. But Shemuel said to Saul, I will not go back with you, for you have rejected our Father in heaven's command, and our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, has rejected you as king over Israel. As Shemuel turned to leave, Saul seized the corner of his robe, and it tore. And Shemuel said to him, Our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and earth, has this day torn the kingship over Israel away from you, and has given it to another who is worthier than you. Moreover, the glory of Israel does not deceive or change his mind, for he is not human that he should change his mind. But Saul pleaded, I did wrong. Please honor me in the presence of the elders of my people and in the presence of Israel, and come back with me until I have bowed low to our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, Elohim. So Shemuel followed Saul back, and Saul bowed low to our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth. Shemuel said, Bring forward to me King Agag of Amalek. Agag approached him with faltering steps, and Agag said, bitter death is at hand. Shemuel said, As your sword has bereaved woman, so shall your mother be bereaved among women. And Shemuel cut Agag down before our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, at Gilgal. Shemuel then departed from Ramah, and Saul went up to his home at Gibeah of Saul. Shemuel never saw Saul again to the day of his death. But Shemuel grieved over Saul, because our Father in heaven, the master of the heavens and the earth, regretted that he made Saul king over Israel. Wow, that's a story, man. Amen. Our Father, Messiah, Holy Spirit with us. I pray you all have a great, wonderful, beautiful, blessed day. Amen. I love you all, brothers and sisters. Peace and love. Shalom, shalom.